All right, we've seen this movie before. We know the playbook, and the former president is following it. He announced on Truth's social media platform today that he is the target, once again, of special counsel Smith into, this time, the January 6th riots and efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Again, he called it a witch hunt. Again, the DOJ let him go out first. Now, they're going to say, well, we do that as a courtesy. Listen, this ain't pro forma, okay? And messaging matters here, especially when the former president's main defense is, you're dirty, you're perverting justice, and you're out to get me so I don't beat Biden. So to the extent that that is not the reason for the investigation, shouldn't the DOJ be saying more sooner? Okay, let's discuss. Former federal prosecutor we have with us, Renato Mariotti, and Trump attorney Jesse Binnall. Good to have you both, and thank you. Let's talk law, and then let's talk politics. Jesse, that'll be harder for you because the legal defense for you is, in part, political. I understand. So, Renato, I start with you. What could you imagine would be a crime chargeable against the former president?
I think it'll likely be something like conspiracy to defraud the United States, centered around that fake elector scheme. So, that would, I think, be an obvious place to start. There you have false documents, I think admittedly false documents that are submitted to the United States Senate with the purpose of influencing an official proceeding. And the question is whether or not there's sufficient evidence of intent to defraud. Presumably, Jack Smith believes he hasn't.
All right, one quick follow-up, and then I'm coming to you, Jesse. You would ask this anyway. Here's the thing. I know that you're supposed to charge where the facts take you, but there's discretion. And this is a highly politically charged situation. So it's not going to be January 6th or causing the riots. You don't think that that's what this is. You think this is going to be about the electors. How much proof would you need to have any chance of the former president being in legal jeopardy, Renato? And what kind of confidence would you need to bring this when you know you're going to get crushed if it seems thin or it gets thrown out?
Yeah, I think the real question is what is the evidence he has of intent to defraud? In other words, there's no question that there are false statements here. There's no question of what happened. I don't think anyone disputes that. The question is, how do they prove that the president intended to defraud? And there, I really think it's going to come down to the testimony of those closest to the former president. People like Mark Meadows, people like Rudy Giuliani. And we hear reports that they spent hours talking. For example, Rudy Giuliani spent hours talking to the feds. Ultimately, the testimony of those people are going to be what sinks or swims the former president. If everyone around him is testifying on the prosecution side, it's going to be a strong case. If not, obviously, that remains to be seen. That could be an issue for the prosecution.
All right. So, Jesse, I know that the main defense is this is politicized to keep Trump out of the election. But preface your comments by letting us understand, do you have any concerns about anything that you've learned about the efforts to try to cook up some electors to change some of the outcomes of the election?
No, I really don't. And while I don't represent President Trump in this particular case, what we've, I think, seen in detail, like, for instance, from the January 6th committee, shows that there was actually a legal basis for doing everything that was done with the electors in this case. So, for instance, in the 1960 election, there was a recount in Hawaii. And so alternate electors cast ballots for John F. Kennedy. And in fact, those ballots were counted at the joint session of Congress because after the recount, it was found that Kennedy actually won the state of Hawaii. And so there was a legal basis for doing all that. And so there's serious concerns. There's also very serious concerns, constitutional concerns, with the First Amendment. The First Amendment, not just the free speech clause, but the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. So anytime Congress is going to actually take an action, any member of the public, it doesn't matter if you're John Doe public or if you're the President of the United States, you have a right to go to Congress and say, you shouldn't do X action, you should do Y action instead. That's part of living in a free democracy, is doing just that.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.